Hello and welcome to CoderzColumn. My name is Sunny Solanki, and in today's video I'll be explaining how to create a simple dashboard using Python library Panel. Panel is a very famous Python library to create dashboards. It lets us include charts from various Python libraries like Bouquet, Matplotlib, and so on. We'll be creating a dashboard in Jupyter Notebook first. So we'll be creating a dashboard in an incremental fashion in Jupyter Notebook. And then at the end of the tutorial, I will explain you how to bring up a dashboard as an individual app using Panel. So Panel let us bring dashboard as an individual web app from IPython notebook or Jupyter notebook, as well as from Python file. So I will explain both in this tutorial. So without further delay, let's get started with the coding part. So I have opened a tab where I have Jupyter notebook already open. And as you can see on my screen, the notebook has a simple image of our dashboard that we are going to create. So the dashboard will have two charts. One is a scatter chart and another one is a stacked bar chart. So scatter chart will be showing relationship between the two columns of our data set, and there are two drop downs to select the columns over here, as you can see. And then there is a one checkbox which let us select one column of our data frame which has a categorical data. So if we want to color based on that categorical column, if we want to color the points of our chart based on that categorical column, then we can select this checkbox, otherwise we can unselect it. For bar chart, we are showing the average value of columns of our data set, and it's a stacked bar chart. So by default we will be selecting 3 columns of our data set, but this is the multi-select which you see at the top, and we can select more than one values as we need. So that was a small introduction to what kind of dashboard that we are going to create in our tutorial. So let's get started with the coding. So first of all, I have imported various libraries. So I have imported pandas. Next library is pandas bouquet. So it's a very famous library that let us create interactive bouquet charts from pandas data frame with just one line of code. So we will create a bouquet chart using this pandas bouquet library. And then there is a load wine method is imported from scikit-learn. So it has data about our data set. And then I have imported a panel as pn. After importing panel, I have called a method name extension. The reason behind calling this method is that if we want to display the widgets and other charts in the Jupyter notebook, and in order to display widgets in Jupyter notebook, we need to call this method pn extension. If you are coding in Python file directly .py file, then you don't need to call this function at all. So let me execute this first cell. Alright, so it completed successfully. In the next cell, I am loading the data set. So let me execute this cell and show you how our data set looks. So the data set is loaded as a pandas data frame, and it has information about various ingredients used in creation of 3 different types of wine. So wine type over here, as you can see, it's the last column, and that's a categorical column. It has 3 values: class 0, class 1, and class 2. And all other columns are various ingredients and their values used in creation of those wines. So I have stored ingredients as a list as well. So as you can see, we have these ingredients: alcohol, malic acid, S, and so on. Yeah, so let's go ahead and create our first chart. So I will create a simple method which returns a figure object. So let me call it create scatter chart, and it will take 3 parameters, which is x-axis column name, y-axis column name, and whether to color encode or not. So I will set default values. For x-axis, by default I will use alcohol, this ingredient. For y-axis, the default value will be malic acid, and as we provide different values, the different figure will be written. So over here I will call our wine df data frame. I will call load bouquet method over there, and on that I will call scatter method. For x-axis, I will say whatever is the x-axis value. For y-axis, whatever is y-axis column name provided, and for category I will say if color and code is present, then wine type, so color based on wine type, else it will be none. And so that's the chart ready. Now let me specify X label. I will say X axis capitalize, this will be X label. Same I will set for Y label, Y axis. Then I will set title to be X axis value versus Y axis value. So I will copy this code, X axis dot capitalize and Y axis dot capitalize. So that was the title. Now there is a parameter named show figure which I need to set to false. So when I set this parameter to false, then it will return figure object. Otherwise it will show the figure in the Jupyter notebook. Okay, other than this, let me set font size of title and labels. Font size of title I will set to 20 and font size of label I will set to 12. Let's okay, so that's the scatter figure. I will store the result in scatter fig variable and I will return it from this method. So we have our first method ready, which let me call it and check that everything is working fine. Okay, so it has created a figure object, but it's not displaying over it because we need to call show method from a bouquet, but it successfully created a figure object. Now let's go ahead and create various widgets. So for x-axis I will create a widget. So in order to create a drop down, we need to call pn.widgets.select method. It has parameter name which will be label for this that drop down, and there is a parameter name options which is the list of options which I will set to ingredients, and the value parameter is the current value which is selected. So by default I will set it to alcohol, but as we change the drop down value, this value will be changed as well. So that was x-axis. Next is y-axis. For y-axis I will set default value to malic acid, but this value parameter gets updated as we change drop down values. And then I will create a checkbox, pn.widgets.checkbox. I will name it, let's say, color and code, and value will be false. So by default I want checkbox to be unselected. So if I want to see any drop down, as you can see we have created two drop down and you can see various drop down values which we can set. Okay, now we have created drop down and we have created a figure object. So we will be linking these three things to create our initial layout of our dashboard. So this first part where to drop down and then there is a checkbox and then there is a chart. So we'll create this part. So panel has a method named row and there is a method named column. So what these two method accepts is it accepts list of objects one after another, and whatever you provide based on the method name, if it's row then it will lay out objects in row like fashion, and if it's a panel then it will lay out objects in if it's in column then it will lay out objects in column like fashion. So let me show you how it works. So I will say x-axis and y-axis to drop down. So as I combine them, as you can see, it laid them out in a row like fashion. Now I need to create our layout. So I will say column and I will be giving three values. So first value is pn.row. So this will be two drop downs. The next value is the color encode, and the third value is this scatter chart method. Okay, so let me execute and let me store the result in first chart. Let me move these things and let me show you how it looks. So as you can see, we have our first chart ready. As you can see, the chart looks little small, but we have this drop downs and checkbox all laid out. But as you can see, when I change the value of this checkbox, or if I change the value of drop down, it's not updating chart. So that's what next we are going to do. In order to do that, we need to write a callback function which will update the chart as we change the value of these drop downs or this checkbox. So let me write a method named update scatter chart. Now this method accepts the event object, and over here I will say first chart of 2 dot object. So first chart we have three objects. So two row object with two drop downs, then checkbox, and then chart. So first chart of 2 will be this scatter chart, and that will be set to, so what I will do, I will call a create scatter method, and I will set it provide x-axis value to x-axis dot value. So x-axis dot value is value of this drop down. So this x-axis dot value, whatever value will be selected from drop down, that value will be returned. Then y-axis dot value will return whatever the value is selected for the drop down, and color and code will return true and false based on whatever drop down value is selected. So that's that. Let me show you how first chart looks if I print it. So as you can see, it's the list column. As you can see, 0, 1 and 2. 2 is bouquet figure, which we set over here, 2 of object. So now we have a function which updates the chart into place, but we need to link this function with the object, which is a drop down object or checkbox object, and which parameter of that drop down. So we can do that setting x-axis. So this is the x-axis drop down, and param dot watch, and call this function whenever value changes. So whenever this value parameter changes, we will be calling this function. And what this function will do, it will take the latest value of drop downs and checkboxes, create chart from it, and set it as a first chart object which is set at second index. Okay, so that we have set for x-axis. We need to do it for all the three widgets, which is two drop downs and one checkbox. So I think we are overdone over here. So let me execute this cell, and as you can see, now if I select the checkbox, as you can see, it's coloring the points of the chart based on wine type, which is class 0, class 1, class 2. I can unselect it. I can select any other ingredients, and it's updating the chart. As you can see, color intensity versus malic acid. And yeah, so we are done with our first chart. Now let me just do one minor change. Let me change the figure size of this chart. So I will set figure size to 650 by 500. Okay, so let me execute all of them again. Just a minute, let me just restart the kernel and run it from the top. All right, so now it's working. As you can see, the figure size is modified. So as you can see, when I change the widget values, the value the chart is updated. So we have our first chart ready, which is stored in a variable named first chart. All right, so let's go ahead with our second chart. So for the second chart, I'll be creating I have created a new data frame named average YNDF. So let me execute this cell. So what this data frame has is it has average value of ingredient for wine type. So what I have done is I have grouped the entry of our original YNDF data frame based on wine type. So and then I have called mean function. So over as you can see, class 0 and then 13.74 is the average value of alcohol for class 0 entries. So the second chart will be created using this data frame, and I will be creating a stacked bar chart which will show the average value of selected ingredients. So as you can see, this is the stacked bar chart which has average value of ingredients for wine type class 0, class 1 and class 2. So let's go ahead and create a second chart. So I will create a method name create bar chart. It will accept a simple parameter name ingredients, and again I will use average YNDF dot lot bouquet dot bar method, and for x-axis I will say wine type, and then for y-axis I will say ingredients. So ingredients, and for x-axis the label will be wine type, and for y-axis the label will be average value of ingredients, average ingredient. Title will be average ingredients per wine type, and figure size I will set to 500 by 500, and I need to set show figure to false in order to return figure, and the default value will be 3 ingredients will be selected by default, which is alcohol, malic acid and ash. I will call this one bar figure I will return it from this method. So I have created a method. So next I need to create a multi-select and link it with this chart bar figure. So let's go ahead and do that as well. So in order to create a multi-select, I'll be using method name pn.widgets.multiselect, and from multi-select I will give name to ingredients. Options will be list of ingredients, all the ingredients, and value by default will be this 3 value: alcohol, malic acid and ash. So this will be multi-select, right? So multi-select is done. Next we need to call pn.column method, and the first value is the multi-select, and second is call to this method bar chart. So this I will call second chart, So let me execute this one and show you the result. So as you can see, it created a bar chart, and okay, so I missed one parameter which is tagged equal to true. Because of that, it's not stacked bar chart and it's creating by default group bar chart. So let me make that change equal to true. And now as you can see, it created a stacked bar chart. So we have created our stacked bar chart, but it won't update the chart. So let's create a callback which updates the chart and link it with multi-select. So I will say update bar chart. It will be accepting event, and in this case second chart, so let me print it, is at index 1. So I will say second chart of 1 dot object, and I will call this method which creates chart create man with our multi select value. So by default initially the value of these 3 ingredients, but as we select different ingredients, those ingredients will return as a list to this value parameter. So I'll be giving multi-select.value, and then it will create a new bar chart of those ingredients selected, and it will be updating it at the index 1 location in second chart. Now I need to link this method to our multi-select, and I will call watch. So I will say update bar chart and monitor value parameter. So let me execute this one, and as you can see now, let me change the value. It's updating the chart. As you can see, if I select the 4 values, it has updated the 4 chart. So we have our 2 charts ready individually. Now we need to combine these 2 to create our final dashboard. So as you can see, we created this part, and then we created this second part of bar chart. Now we need to combine these 2 to create our final dashboard. So let's go ahead and do that. In order to do that, I will copy this code of the first chart. So this one, I'll copy it over here, and then I will copy the code of the second chart, which I will copy over here. So let me just add a comment, first chart with widget, and this is the code of the second chart with widgets. So both of them are here. So first chart is present is first chart object and second chart. Now in order to combine them, I will simply use pn.row method, and I will say first chart and second chart. I will save it to dashboard named variable, and let me execute this line of code. And as you can see, we have our dashboard ready. So let me change the values. As you can see, I am changing the value, it's updating over here. Let me change the multi-select. As you can see, it's updating the bar chart as well. So we have our dashboard ready. So dashboard is working fine in Jupyter Notebook, as you can see. So now we have a working dashboard in Jupyter Notebook, but the dashboards are generally deployed independent as a web app. So let me explain how you can bring up this dashboard as an individual web app. So panel, let us do that by directly from Jupyter Notebook, or you can save this code to Python file and do that as well. So I will explain both ways. So first of all, let's bring up our web app or our dashboard from this Jupyter Notebook itself. So in order to do that, I just need to include one line of code at the end of the dash notebook. So I need to call a method named servable on object which I want to serve as a dashboard. So I have created a dashboard object which is final dashboard, and on that I need to call servable method. So that's it. Now this is done. Now in order to bring up dashboard as a individual web app, I will run it from command prompt. So my Jupyter Notebook is stored in a directory named YouTube tutorials panel dashboard, In order to bring it as a web app, I need to execute command panel serve, and then the name of the notebook, which is simple panel dashboard. And in order to open it, I need to call show method. So let me just execute that one. Okay, so second chart is not defined. There is a minor error over here. Let me correct that. Let me try once again. So it's giving an error name, second chart is not defined. Right, so let's leave it as of now. So what I will do is that I will include the solution in the description of this video, but I don't see any issue with the code as of now. So code is working just fine. Okay, so this line is causing the error. Okay, we have found the issue with the notebook. So this second chart in notebook I have called after executing this cell, and when the server is executing this code, it is executing second chart first, and then we are creating second chart. So that's why that error came. So keep this thing in mind when you are creating a server, when you are creating a dashboard. So it will execute in sequence, and it found this variable second chart which was not declared. So let me try once again. Alright, so now that we commented that line of code, we have our working dashboard. And as you can see, the dashboard is served from localhost 5006 port and simple panel dashboard. And let me just change the various ingredients so it is updating the chart. Let me change this one. So yeah, so we have our working dashboard ready with two chart. It was a very simple dashboard, as you can see, of just two chart. So we were able to bring up dashboard as a web app from our Jupyter notebook. Now you might want to save the code to Python file and want to bring up a server up from Python file as well. So you can do that as well. So let me show you. I have saved the code, this total code which I explained over here till now, in a Python file. So let me open that. So as you can see over here, I have a Python file where I have total code of our dashboard present. So over here we are loading data set, then we are declaring various widgets, then we are creating charts, first chart, updating chart by linking it with the callback. This is the logic for the second chart over here, and finally we have combined first chart and second chart to create dashboard. And over here the last line says dashboard.servable. So we need to run this Python file exactly same way we ran the Jupyter notebook. So let me run that. I will say simple dashboard panel.py and let me run it. And as you can see, the dashboard is up and running. So let me change the values. As you can see, it's updating the dashboard as I select various values in various widgets. Yeah, so that's it. It was that easy to create a dashboard using Python library panel. As you can see, the line of code is around 66, which is quite less number of lines. And it's a 66 because we have spaces at various places. And the many line of code are just one line, but we have spread it across more than one line. That's why this is 66 lines. Otherwise, it's quite less number of lines compared to that. So yeah, that's it for today's tutorial. In today's tutorial, I explained how you can create a dashboard using Python library panel, and we created a very simple dashboard. So this is a good starting point for someone who is new to panel and want to get started with creating dashboards. So yeah, if you liked our video and if you feel that you learned something new today, then give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and see you next time.